Now, the challenge is to reach consensus that everyone needs to speak the same language in the same time zone. So what is the time zone and language that is the root governance of all of EOS? And that is, it's almost like an international thing. You have to pick an international language and a time zone that works for most people. And if you want to participate, you can be Chinese or Korean or Spanish, as long as you speak the language of the UN, right? Or English or whatever it is, or you have a translator with you to, do it. But you have to speak English to participate. Now, the question is, should the EOS network have multiple fractals at the top level, and then fund them one for each language, right? And then have them kind of coordinate. But that just moves a governance problem. What's the governance process at the top level now? It's, now you've got to come up with some custom thing for that. Is it democratic or so forth? Is it a one-time custom job of, all right, every language gets X amount of inflation? How do you say, well, the Spanish community is 1/10 the size of the Chinese community? Do we do population-based things? It just becomes really problematic. But if you have a fractal already, and that fractal can reach consensus on which other child factors to subsidize, then it works. But it means picking one language. And I think that having an English language Eden being half of the block producers and the other half being DPoS, which is largely the Chinese and the Korean, now they both have power on the EOS network, and there's no reason the Chinese can't participate.
So again, the initial proposal was, again, the ENF, send the inflation to the prime fractal, and then it's up to the prime fractal to distribute there. And then Dan's just said that, theoretically you could have the inflation go directly to these, fractals directly about the sort of governing fractal as the middleman. One idea that I had on the call just a while back was, what if there were a sort of compromise between that, which would be kind of like, you still got the governing fractal, but because the ENF is making that contribution, they have a weekly meeting or whatever with the ENF has a weekly meeting with the council of the prime fractal, and then any concerns of the ENF could be addressed there. Would that be a viable thing, Dan, or what's your thoughts on that? I just thought of it before.
My ultimate preference is that the ENF is a temporary agency that eventually just becomes someone who participates in this process, like everyone's business here, and they can represent the block producers in the Chinese community and whatnot, and they can fund various things. And to the extent that people value the work that the ENF is doing for the community, they can get their budget the same way I get my budget, and everyone else is using the same process for getting their budget, instead of having this ENF being the anointed gatekeeper between the block producers and this entire system. The goal should be that the ENF fades away, the inflation comes in, and then the block producers, half of which would be appointed by this system, would have to approve by multi-sig any particular change. And because it requires 2/3 approval, neither the DPoS system nor the fractal system actually has the ability to do anything unilaterally.
You maybe just touched on this, but I'm going to ask. Maybe I didn't understand, but why can't we have all separate, multiple languages all interacting with each other? I mean, in a UN style thing, where we just at the point where that occurs, I mean, and everyone can have like a real-time translation of everyone else speaking, and we could have a kind of a global international.
You can have the governance fractal be the council of all the other fractals. So each fractal sends 12 people to the root governance fractal. And that's the requirement to be a member in the governance fractal, is that you're appointed from the current council.